Welcome to another session of Unpacking It with MJ
and Ferdie.
With MJ
and Ferdie.
Why do you even dance?
I don't know.
But I suppose it adds a bit of
salt bae.
Some. Hey, yes, guys.
That is salt, by the way.
Yes, guys. One day you guys are gonna appreciate, or rather, you're gonna get to hear about how we get these videos done. Eh? It's tough.
Don't be dramatic.
It's because like we have a boss who determines when we shoot and for how long we shoot. But anyway,
that is true.
We're back, and yeah, we're about to get into it and unpack everything.
We're still dancing.
No.
Because I feel like cramping.
Maybe one day we should have like a vlog where we just literally dance, like keep quiet and just dance all the time.
I want to dance. I can't dance.
Now you're checking out.
I can't dance to save my life.
Wow, look at him, top notch. So babe, what are we talking about today?
I think start with your experience.
I'll start with my experiences.
Then we'll tell them.
So baby and I were talking about this a few weeks back, and I suppose this is like a conversation we are kind of rehaving, but with more renewed wisdom. But listen, there's a time
and a curiosity to find out what other people think. Yes,
that's the NB part. So I remember a few years ago when guys, it test rappered me, eh?
Still remember those.
And I remember calling back home and I was like, you know what, I don't think I'm cut off for this. I want to quit. I don't think I can do this. And I remember
and sorry, like I find those funny there. You see, like whenever everyone goes and looks on the board and they're looking for their marks, there's always that one person who just stands still. They're looking. No emotion. And you know it's going down.
You can't give it away, guys. But anyway, yeah, so it hit me hard and I called home and I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm cut off for this. I want to quit everything. And a very close family relative of mine was like, you know what, if you're really sure and you're convinced, just come home. You know, you can always start over. And for me, that made a huge difference because I knew there was almost like a second chance to go and do over. And for that very reason, guys, I decided to stay there and fight and, you know, fight till the end, I suppose, completing my course. But not just that, little things like how my mom sometimes gives me like hand-me-downs. And guys, this is also from her. Hey, this little cute top, I hope you can see it. I got it from my mama. And just how my family constantly checks up on me. Back in the day, my mom would take me for random photo shoots or take me to this particular food outlet and would just chill and chat for days on end. Just how they've supported me and also taking me out of some sticky situations that I may have found myself in. And this is me talking about my mom, my dad, my grandmother, my aunt, basically everybody who's had a contribution towards who I am today. And it's funny because I always tell my mom that if it was not for me, I'm sure she would have been a millionaire or lived in a mansion by now. Yeah. But there's so much of them they've sacrificed and given for me to be where I am, and I'm grateful.
Yeah. And I suppose my parallel story is like I was in boarding school, right? Back home, things were bad, and things were bad, really bad. And at home, my dad was actually working like 3 jobs. Really? And he was studying as well. And my mom and my sister were busy selling scones just to make sure that they could, send us money. So when I was in boarding school, for some reason, only after the fact, only when I actually grew, did I realize that these things were happening. When I was there, literally, if ever I needed anything, I'll just go and write a letter.
Write a letter?
Yeah, we didn't have phones those days, so we'd actually sit and write a letter. Dear Mama,
okay, no, we don't want to know.
I'm running out of peanut butter. Can I have Dovi?
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. And whenever you'd write that letter, 2 weeks later, everything you were asking for would come. If you're asking for money, it would come, right? And little did I know what was happening in the background. Yeah. The amount of sacrifices which are being held. Look at my sister. She's not that much older than me, but she was going to school, and imagine having to go through the experience of going to sell scones at school, or even my mom. Imagine having to go do that at your child's school. So there were a lot of sacrifices, and guess what? At that point, I didn't know. So I was able to actually go and do well in school simply because I had absolutely no problem in that experience. Yet there was a whole plethora of people, my family, were taking the fort. Literally, my ability to express myself in class in that exam was a direct result of their sacrifices, right? Or even when I grew up, varsity, when, again, exams, ravazayu, you know, that kind of stuff. You could feel depressed and stuff, but if you always have that support structure which tells you that, you know what, it's okay, we'll try again. If it's next year, let's try again next year. If it's next term, try again next term. If it's the next exam.
It does a whole lot for you.
It's one of those things where an appreciation of what's being done behind for you to be who you are is very important.
Yeah.
And I suppose it also brings us back to why we're having this conversation.
So guys, this has been like a challenge for us, and I suppose a point of conviction when it comes to taking care of our parents or giving back, or what most people refer to as black tax. And I don't even know if actually we should be calling it that. Simply because, babe, do you know tax is when like a revenue authority, like SARS or whatever revenue authority, takes money from your earnings, your hard-earned earnings, without you wanting or willing.
And depending on where you are, sometimes almost 40%, 40+%.
Exactly. So should we even be calling it black tax? Like, what if we called it like a blessing to give back, or a blessing to take care of our loved ones?
Yeah, and what I find very, I don't know, uneasy for me personally, is the idea that when we've heard it, we've gone to many seminars where we're talking about financial planning, and people are talking about how black tax is a reality and how we can get rid of it, you know, and how it's pulling us down, how black tax is pulling us down. And we've heard many things, and it seems as if the consensus with the young people, again, admittedly, it's a very small sample because we do not have context on everyone, but we believe it's very much representative of our age group, especially guys who want to pursue career, that it seems as if that is something which is viewed as holding us back from getting the wealth perhaps our other races are getting, you know, to be able to build that wealth, and we aren't able because we have got quote unquote black tax.
But I think it's not necessary. I think it goes across many races, just that perhaps maybe we always discuss it from our point of view. And what about the part where politicians go into rural areas or areas that aren't really taken care of, and take like supplies and t-shirts, and you just see the sense of appreciation or excitement from some of the older people, and then we come crying and we say, yeah, but why did they vote for this party? Actually, a friend of ours sent us a video the other time where he was addressing this, and it was like, we can't really blame them for, say, voting for a certain party, because from where they're standing, this is the one time when someone has thought about them.
Which have that person's name.
Exactly, but it's the one time when someone has actually taken the time out of their busy schedule to go see them and to go and give them something. I'm so sorry to be doing this, but I'm going to be reading a text out of the Bible. I generally prefer using the actual hardcover, but I'm going to have to use a phone today. But it talks about honoring and taking care of widows, right? It's in 1 Timothy 5. I'm just going to read a little piece. It says, but if any widow has children or grandchildren, let them first learn to show piety at home and to repay their parents, for this is good and acceptable before God. So you know that saying, charity begins at home? It's actually biblical. And I know this is speaking predominantly about widows, but I also believe it could be applicable to just the people living under your household, and like it being your parents, your grandparents, but basically your immediate family. It's a responsibility, at least as a young person. When I read this verse, I believe it's a responsibility and not just a nice to do thing that I do because I feel like it. It's almost like it's what God expects of me. And then verse 7 says, and these things command that they may be blameless. But if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So for you to deny the faith, you don't have to go and profess that, listen, I'm not a Christian anymore. Something as little as neglecting your parents or your grandparents or people who are under your roof. So it's very important for us to remember that. And it's not just about resources or money per se. It can take care of people in many different ways. Yes, our parents' generation was not prone to mental illness or depression, but guys, our parents go through a lot. And half the time they keep on brave faces because they're thinking, I want to be strong for my child. So, yeah.
And I like what this verse says. Other versions actually are not as sanitized and say it's worse than an unbeliever. They say that it's worse than an infidel. Like, again, and look at the optics. Like, I don't understand where we've lost the plot, to be honest. Like, the people have given everything for you. Literally, sometimes when we get to these places, when we get to varsity or something like that, you forget that someone was walking barefoot because they had to make sure that you go through 7 years. 12 years of schooling for you to be able to go and mix and mingle with the smart kids in varsity, right? And those feet which went through that to get us there, they're the ones we neglect the most. Like, it's almost like in our generation, I'm seeing a trend whereby we are kind of forgetting those who are going to be behind us. And we sort of exalting self to such an extent that it's about how I want to build wealth for the future generation. It's always about the future generation, but we're neglecting the older generation. And what we don't realize is we are evidence of progress to them. But if then their journey stops there, then what's in it for them? I want to read Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1 to 3, right? It says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise. And it may be well with thee, and thou mayst live long on the earth, right? It says that honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, right? And I know someone is probably asking and thinking, but I don't really believe in the Bible, but I don't, I'm not Christian. And to that I say, Romans chapter 11 verse 29, it says that the gifts and the calling of God are without repentance. So what does that mean? It means if you're an atheist, if you follow the health laws, literally, if you eat well, if you eat healthfully, if you eat according to the biblical principle,
and you rest and you exercise, basically everything
you will get peace. You will get the gift of health. You will get the vibrancy of youth and health. Why? Because God does not withhold his gift simply because you don't believe him. God is no respecter of persons. He doesn't give us gifts because we are this person or we are that person. He doesn't give you gifts because you're a Christian. No. He gives you gifts because he loves you. Whether you're a Christian or not, he still loves you.
As the Bible says, he lets the sun shine on both the wicked and the righteous, and lets the rain up on both their crops. Exactly. If I could put it like that.
Exactly. So if you don't believe in God, still honor your mother and your father, because guess what? That promise is for you. The promise is for those who do the word, right? It's not irrespective of what affiliation you're with. If you honor your mother and your father, the promise is for you.
Yeah, and with that being said, guys, we are not naive to the fact that some of our mother, or rather parent-child relationships may be strained for some reason whatsoever. But what we're pleading is that you maybe take the time out to pray, talk to someone, fast, do whatever it is that you may need to do to get to a place where you can forgive them. And then slowly start honoring them, start taking care of them. And it may not necessarily only be, say, monetary based, because maybe some parents are fortunate enough to be well resourced, but it's little things like spending time with them, checking up on them, praying for them.
Yeah.
If you have children, let your children go spend some time with them. Because, guys, you know what? Some of you would be shocked if you were to hear the things that your parents say to their friends about you. Yeah. Simply because you honestly don't know just how proud and how grateful they are for you. Yet we do say the bare minimum and find it easy to say spend on friends as opposed to our very families.
Yeah. And before we close up, for me, I yearn for that day when we don't hear testimonies or people saying that if it wasn't for my mother, who's a strong woman, if it wasn't for my grandmother, if it wasn't for my father's prayers, if it wasn't for their prayers, I wouldn't be there. Good as it may be, I'm praying for a generation where our parents can say that if it wasn't for my child, I wouldn't have been here. If it wasn't for my child, I wouldn't have beaten this diabetes. If it wasn't for my child, I would not have beaten this breast cancer. If it wasn't for my child's prayers and their support,
I wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's always the other way around. My mom is my rock.
Yeah.
We are grown now.
Yeah.
We have the ability to take the fort. And in our society, we have to take the fort and start moving forward. We must recreate how the world is right now. We must...
in our little circles and
in
our little spheres of influence. So with that being said, as the word says, give them their flowers while they're still living. So just let us know in the comment section if you found this useful, of your experiences maybe, if you're doing it already. Big ups to you, and we're very grateful for you. But if you're struggling, also just share your stories with us. And for everyone who's subscribed, thank you so much for the love and support. But for everyone who's watching and you haven't subscribed yet, do the right thing.
Subscribe
and
like. Do I need anything? And share too. We must tell them to share. And please share.
Yes,
please share.
So, and also encourage other people to join on the conversations. And we have a lot in store, like this is just the beginning. We're so excited.
We're really excited. Please engage with us.
Exactly.
We really love feedback.
All right, anyway, until next time, peace.